Before we watch this video, please note that this video will contain some spoilers, so if you don't want to be spoiled, go watch the season. I still think it is worth your time. If you don't care about spoilers, please continue. Oh my god, is that guts and blood? Is this not Disney anymore? Whoa, okay. So now I know why Grogu always walks so slow, because his running is kinda hilarious and I don't know why. But don't worry, this dude is running fast. The Usain Bolt of B2 battle droids. Russian till last no fun. So, due to me thinking that the show is very inconsistent in terms of quality of this season, I will be reviewing it episode by episode and then talk about it as a whole. I will leave the timestamp below for each section. Feel free to skip to any parts that you are interested in. Without further ado, let's begin. The show follows Din and Grogu as Mando tries to seek redemption after being exiled in the Book of Boba Fett. Along the way, he receives help from Bo-Katan, who lost a clan due to not owning the Darksaber. During the event, Bo accidentally rejoins the Watch and learns to become one of them. Then, as per orders and blessing from the Armorer, Bo is bestowed with the quest of reuniting the Mandalorians and reclaiming their home world. And yes, you heard me correct. Din Djarin is not really mentioned that much, as this season is really about the entire Mandalorian race.
Mandalorian isn't a race.
I'll let you in on a little secret. I've been very much looking forward to this moment. Very, very much.
Right from the get-go, we are thrown back into this world with a very strong opening, with a ceremony that inducts a young boy into the clan. Then a big giant action immediately happens that shows how the Watch is living in a tough time, and the Mandalorian as a whole is not at their best. The action is directed fairly well, very chaotic, but it still allows all the key characters to shine, mainly the boy, Paz Vizsla, and the Armorer. Only after this we are shown to Din and Grogu. I think this is important for the season as a whole, as Mandalorian is the true central plot point instead of Din and Grogu. Then Din got his mission to redeem himself, and that is when the episode started to lose me. The first side quest, he went to Navarro to gather the things he needed, specifically IG-11. We see how Griff is doing well, how Navarro is doing well. They addressed the Cara Dune situation, which is whatever. Then it started to have this very tensionless standoff with a gang of pirates who feels more like a street punk that just came out of nowhere and get their ass whooped by the good guys. They even shot this standoff like an old western movie, which is great. But my problem is, this is the pilot of a third season. I know Griff is not gonna be dead, considering his opponents are these street punks, so no matter how great this scene is, it is completely void of tension and dread, but there's more. After Din's attempt to revive IG-11, we got another tensionless scene of a cut-off IG-11 dragging his upper body trying to kill Grogu, which is again no dread or stake, as I know Grogu is certainly not going to die anytime soon, so the scene just feels weird considering how everyone act like this is a big deal. I mean, Din is there, Griff is there, Grogu trained with Luke for a period of time, IG-11 only has his upper body. Am I supposed to feel scared for Grogu? Then we get a cameo from a few Anzellan and they set Din off to another side quest of retrieving an IG unit memory circuit. Then we get a side quest to the side quest of a side quest. The street punk is back with his boss and an army. We get a very fun spaceship chase scene and see Din destroys everyone except the one punk that keeps getting away. Again, same problem. Why would I care about any of this? I know Din is not going to die to these punks who are even proved to be incompetent during their earlier encounters. No matter how well directed these actions are, they are boring, which I know is a strong word, but let's just say for Mando level, these are boring as hell. Then after the side quest to the side quest of a side quest, Din takes another side quest to see Bo, who is just the most miserable person in the whole galaxy now without any prior explanation. She lives in solitude on an island, wondering where Luke learned that from. They talk about how Bo's clan abandoned her because she didn't have the Darksaber. and Din learns the location of living waters, which can redeem him and make him a Mandalorian again. Then the episode ends with Din continuing on his side quests. So as the first episode of a third season for such a successful show, I think this is a major step down as the episode has no central story. It is just a huge setup for the entire season, which you will see as the season progresses. So I understand why this episode is necessary, because without this setup, the rest of the story just cannot come together. And the episode itself has no central story as well. It is just him getting his mission so he can start to go on side quest after side quest after side quest. And at the end of the episode, he is still going on with another side quest. So overall, don't find this episode very entertaining in terms of story development. Quite boring actually. The no stake, no tension actions are certainly not helping. So let's move on to the next episode. Side quest! So the next side quest to the side quest of the side quest brings Din to Tatooine where he meets up with Peli. This is where the whole show is starting to worry me. Peli doesn't give Din the memory circuit that this whole side quests are about. Instead, she gave Din R5. This means that the side quest of getting IG-11 is completely useless and redundant, as now R5 basically replaces the necessity of IG-11 in the first place, which makes a already pointless episode even more pointless now. But whatever, Amy Sedaris is still amazing as Pelimato, so it's nice to see her. So with R5, Din can finally move on with the mission of bathing in the living waters. Finally! At Mandalore, Din uses R5 to scan the planet to make sure it is safe. And I know Din doesn't trust droids because of his backstory, but randomly being mean to R5 is kinda hurting his character for me. And I mean that he's mean. Like R5 is worth nothing to him, that kind of mean. And I will not stand for this! Droids are our friends! And then, guess what? Side quest!
Good morning, Deputy!
R5 suddenly disappeared on the scanner, and Din has to go find R5. Wow, this is taking the whole side quest thing to a whole other level. We are in like, what, 1/3 of the second episode? And we have a side quest for IG-11, a side quest for IG, another side quest for location of living waters, and now another side quest to find R5. What the hell is going on with the show? So we get a decent action sequence to find R5. Again, no stake or anything, just to show that the planet is dangerous and Din is not really the right person to wield the dark saber, as he is still struggling to use it in battle. But again, doesn't really look like he's into the whole dark saber thing. So yeah, the side quest is a success. Yay! I'm so happy we can finally move on with the story. On his way to the living waters, Din got ambushed by I have no idea what the hell it is, but it is cool as hell. This scene is awesome, as I have no idea what the hell this is and what it is capable of, so this one is more dreadful. But then, Din sends Grogu on, guess what? A side quest! To find Bo for help. My god. So we get a tense escape scene with Grogu, which shows his capability with the Force, which is nice, and Grogu goes to Bo, who is still sitting at the same throne, like she is just not doing anything until her plot begins, that kind of misery. And kind-hearted Bo decides to not be a miserable person anymore and comes to save Din. Along the journey, she kills the cyborg who disarmed Din, and it shows that Bo can really use the darksaber really well. Din insists of completing his quest, so Bo takes him to the living waters herself. And during their walk to the living waters, we learn more about Bo's life when she was young. At the water, Din falls into the depth, and Bo jumps into the water to save Din, where she encounters a mythosaur. The episode is definitely an improvement over the first one, but the beginning kinda makes the first one even more pointless. And this one is better in terms of story because it is finally the start of the central plot point by dragging Bo-Katan into the mix. And by dragging, I mean literally dragging her into it. And Bo, before joining the mission, is just so lazy writing. She is just sitting there, not doing anything, waiting to die, kinda lazy. And when the call came, she instantly jumped into the action and never looked behind ever again. But it does show how she finds the watch ridiculous for believing in all these made-up myths and magical rules and mocks them for that. That is a very important plot detail for the future. So still not great, but definitely can see the improvement and the show is starting to get better. Now this is an interesting one. So we open with them getting back to Bo's castle so she can continue to be an emo girl, but the Imperial remnants starts chasing them out of the blue, like literally.
Literally?
They are still in space where suddenly a dozen TIE interceptors just appeared out of nowhere and start guns blazing on the gauntlet because of her stealing Imperial remnants spaceship as we saw during the past season. But how does the Imperial find her here and now? Surely this can't be a point where all her path is destroyed and she will have no choice but follow Din, right? So we get a great spaceship chase scene where the Imperial destroys Bo's castle, so she has to go with Din because there's nothing left for her here anymore. Well, whatever. Do what you have to do to get the plot along, I guess. At this point, I just hope the plot can get started. I mean, this chase is literally that. I didn't get any build up to that. We didn't see any Imperial pointing out that this is a revenge for her stealing their fleet or anything. Just appears out of the blue to shoot a gauntlet and destroys a castle, hoping that it's her. Great that it works out for the Imperial. That's 1 in a million. Then we cut to Coruscant. This is where the show started to pick up again. We get to see how the former Imperials and how their life is under the New Republic with the amnesty program. Glad they addressed that. We follow Dr. Pershing on his dull life within the New Republic, repeating the same work of destroying anything Imperial related, despite some might bring benefits to the government. I would say that this storyline shows the ugly side of the New Republic, how the system is still incomplete and unsustainable in terms of caring about the people by blindingly excluding everything Imperial. And this is all directed very well. The lighting being the most noticeable, as this part of the story mostly takes place during nighttime, where everything is so dark. Even in the office, it still looks dull, and he mostly deals with droids aside from the people in Amnesty. This all changed for Dr. Pershing as another Imperial remnant, Elia Kane, last seen in Season 2, appears in the program after Moff Gideon gets captured, but they talk about how Gideon actually escaped, so after Ant-Man, Disney decided to give her more opportunity. Great, you love to see it. She is awesome in the show, playing this shady, mysterious character. You can tell she is hiding something, but the great writing allows her to always stay within reasonable limits for her actions and choices. This makes her character harder to catch as to where her heart aligns. We get great scenes of Pershing interacting with Elia, building up their friendships organically, and they feel like two genuine friends. Doctor confines her with his unfulfillment regarding his new role within the New Republic, and Elia gives him the option of doing what he wants. After a mental struggle, Pershing decides to take on her offer. And the scene where he stands up for what he believes to be right is so well done. As I mentioned, the lighting is all dark, but when he leaves the therapy room, the room opens and it is bright outside to show him making the right choice for himself. Then we started to get the scene in daytime. This therapy session also shows the detail of him touching his ear when he is lying during his talk at the beginning. Then everything goes dark again as they risk their new life to do what's right. We get an awesome escape scene on the train that is dreadful and leads to them exploring the Imperial Star Destroyer. Then, of course, being the shady character, Elia betrays Pershing. It is still surprising as the great build-up makes me want to believe that they are genuinely changed men and want to do what is right and the relationship is real. But it turns out she is still an Imperial by heart. Long live the Empire. She not only betrays him, takes his research, she even murders him in cold blood. Awesome character. Then we cut back to Din and Bo, where he proves that he is redeemed and becomes a Mandalorian once again. Bo, on the other hand, accidentally becomes a member of the Watch again. Before, I talk about how she mocks the Watch for believing in the old ways, but losing her people makes her a Mandalorian with no home. So, choosing between rejoining the Watch or in exile, you can clearly see that she has no idea how to react towards this inclusion into the clan, even with the mask on, due to no small part of the direction Katie's acting and the score. A very good episode with a rough opening. But finally, the setup has been completed, and from this point on, the show is mainly good. The episode is amazing with the Coruscant story between Pershing and Elia. The relationship is built up very well, both actors work well together, the writing is strong, and this all sets a very firm foundation for the eventual payoff for their quest and the dark twist of their story. It also introduces Elia as the new threat within the New Republic and a menacing figure within the Imperial Remnant ranks. Katie M. O'Brien is awesome with the character, very charismatic. This is a very short episode that mainly focuses on Bo-Katan fully giving herself to the Watch. We see how Mandalorian train in their daily life. Din started to train Grogu like a Mandalorian, and of course, being strong with the Force, Grogu easily squashes his opponent, which might hint a greater story for him down the line. Then, a Mandalorian boy got captured by a giant bird. Bo doesn't give up and chooses to keep pushing on the rescue for the youngling, even led a rescue party to save the boy. At the clan, the armorer continues to be the cool character that she is, building an armor pieces for Grogu, which triggers another flashback. This time we see how Grogu escaped the Jedi Temple with the help of Master Clarence Beck. Great to see Ahmed Best back again on mainstream Star Wars. The scene hits the same as the flashback last time, but when Clarence escaped on the hoverbike, I know it is green screen, but at least make his robe flaps. The guy is riding on a hoverbike at a high speed across the city. There's a lot of wind breezes across his body. His robe just stays the same, doesn't move at all. Come on now. And the scene put me on the edge of my seat as I don't know if Master Beck will survive. Maybe he did in other stuff, I don't know, so I was terrified that he would not make it out alive. Then we go back to Bo and the rescue party where she experienced the system of the Watch, where she is offered to eat by the fire while others have to find their own spots. This scene is nice to show that she really enjoys being with Mandalorian again. Then they get to the nest and we learn that the youngling is Paz Vizsla's child. What? The giant bird appears, which is really well done. The bird looks like a real creature. I don't know if they did build a real thing or just CGI, but by far the best looking creature in all of Star Wars. We get a very fun and entertaining fight between the bird and the Mandalorian, which Din managed to save the youngling. But boy oh boy, I feel sorry for the bird. The bird is just out there to find food for the children, and the Mandalorian just straight up indirectly murdered her and forces her children to join their cult? What a dark story! Bo returns and receives approval from the armorer who builds her a new signet to replace the signet she lost during the rescue. Bo decides to fully commit to the clan, requested a mythosaur signet, and she discloses to the armorer about seeing a mythosaur in Mandalore. The episode is short, fun, and lots of character and story development, mainly focusing on Bo-Katan, fully accepting herself as a member of the Watch after living in exile. Although not seeing her living in exile, I still think this episode is fairly competent in making me understand her choice as compared to being alone. At least the Watch is still her people and she can still have a home. This also smartly crossover with Grogu's induction into the clan and makes a very nice little adventurous story. This episode is the build towards Bo becoming the leader of Mandalore. We start off with the strict punk's boss from the first episode bombing Navarro for killing his men. This forces Grief to have no choice but hailing for the New Republics to aid them. Then we get to see the ugly side of the Republic again, for not helping any system that does not align themselves with the New Republic. Not out of any bad intentions, they just simply have too much on their hands and no extra care to be put into those systems. And Elia Kane once again showing her shady side, and you love to see it. This also leads to Captain Teva speculating that there is something darker and bigger in play, which is no shit. With no help from the New Republic, Captain Teva redirects Grief's request to Din. After a discussion, and with the support of Paz Vizsla, the Watch decides to help Navarro, and in return, Grief allows the Mandalorian to stay on their planet. We get a very awesome shootout in the city, like special forces taking out terrorists, that kind of operation, and a great space chase with N1, Gauntlet, and the pirate's freighter. The armorer also graced us once again with another breathtaking scene of her taking out a bunch of pirates in stealth mode. The sequence is tense, with the pirates and the Mandalorians going back and forth, each taking turns to be in a dire losing position until they overcome and take control again. Then we get a great scene with Armorer and Bo, where Armorer talks about how the forge in Mandalore and the one in their covert are the same, implying that no matter it's the Watch or clan creeds or any other clan, as long as they are living by the creed, they are all Mandalorians. Armorer requests the Bo to take off her helmet as she needs her to be the one who has lived with both clans so she can unite all Mandalorians and retake their home world. On the other hand, we see Captain Tiva find the ship that is transferring Moff Gideon and it is destroyed with no sight of Moff Gideon, confirming his speculation that something bigger is coming. A very good episode that is able to use Captain Tiva as the character that connected all the stories together and combine into an awesome warlike climax that brings the season into the next chapter. The episode is once again show the ugly side of the New Republic, how the Watch is more united than ever, great action, awesome dialogue between Bo and the Armorer, and a satisfying ending that makes me want to keep watching. The revelation of Moff Gideon escaping at the very end is kind of redundant and lame, as they already keep telling us that Gideon escaped, so I don't really understand the point of showing that. The episode opens with the rest of the Night Owls working as mercenaries. This scene is basically to show how low the Mandalorian has lived after the purge, from galaxy-wide feared warrior races to mercenaries who do work for credits. Then we're back with Bo and Din going to a futuristic planet to find her clan, the Night Owls that abandoned her, the Mandalorians, in the opening. They entered the city and met Jack Blake. What is happening here? I don't mind Jack Blake, but boy oh boy, these people are so not Star Warsy. They feel like Vesper gang in the book of Boba Fett, you know? They are fine and all that, but they just don't fit in. The Vesper gang didn't fit in on Tatooine due to them being so clean and modern. These people are just so over the top, like they are people without sadness or any bad thoughts. They're just people with perfect lives, living in a mansion where they don't have to work, wear royalty clothes, joking and laughing all the time, showing over the top emotions. Just what is going on? And Jack Blake freaking sends them on another freaking side quest.
You're kidding me! God!
So Jack Blake wants them to help investigate a city-wide droid malfunctioning problem in exchange for an opportunity to meet with the Night Owls. What the hell? Fine, whatever. So the investigation starts with Christopher Lloyd. Okay. He plays this old security supervisor who explains that the people cannot live without the droid, so they have to seek out rogue droids and shut them down manually. Then he sends them on another side quest for the side quest. Just get the f*** out of here, come on, I thought we got past this and now we're back at this again? Oh god. Din and Bo are sent to meet with Ugnaughts to get the list of rogue droids, where we get a very interesting and funny scene with Bo unable to interact with Ugnaughts, while Din gets along with them just fine. The scene is funny and entertaining and pays respect to Quill. I love it. Then the investigation starts and we get a chase scene which includes the Usain Bolt you saw in the intro. The chase is alright, definitely not boring, just the whole investigation thing is weird and unconvincing. There are so many ways to prevent them from meeting the Night Owls, but this? Really? Moving on, the B2 leads them to a droid bar, which is a nice idea, and here we get a very heartfelt scene of how a droid wants to survive just as much as any living being. This is great. It is not like having a droid talking about sex, running like a human shouting about droid rights. The scene maintains their robot soul in a way and merely points out that the droid are also doing everything they can to not be decommissioned, which is in turn means that they are afraid of death, which means that they have a soul. Love this. Then we get more investigation with Usain Bolt's corpse and find out that Christopher Lloyd is behind everything.
Surprise!
Then we get the confrontation where Christopher Lloyd's character actually started to win me over with his motivation of supporting Count Dooku's vision on democracy. But then he got taken out by Bo-Katan like a freaking joke. I don't know if I'm supposed to be laughing, which I didn't. Then they bring the perpetrator to Jack Blake and we got this super over the top scene of how Jack Blake and his wife is disappointed in Christopher Lloyd, and Christopher Lloyd feels ashamed in a super over the top way, like instantly feeling regret over his action. Count Dooku's poisoned my mind, I was wrong. Come on, man. What the shit? At least it is over. I hope. They decided to continue on with this momentum and presenting Bo and Din with the key to the city, and they are granting knighthood to Grogu. Sir Grogu. Oh my god. Finally it's over. So Bo and Din go to the Night Owls, now led by Axe-Wolves. Nice name. They don't want Bo to lead them because they think Bo is weak without the dark saber. So Bo challenges Axe one-on-one and we got a pretty good fight between them. Not as good as Maul challenged Vizsla, but still very entertaining. And Axe got beaten, of course, but he still wouldn't yield because without the dark saber, Bo-Katan is no leader to them. So Din says the cyborg in episode 2 disarmed him, and Bo kills the cyborg, so Bo is the rightful owner to the dark saber. And everything is just fine again. Bo turns on the dark saber, all the Night Owls take her as their rightful leader. Definitely the weakest episode since the pilot of the season. The tone is so over the top, but yet the two leads are such serious character. And throwing them into this useless side quest that did offer a great look into the droid's philosophy doesn't help at all. The problem I have is everything prior to them meeting the Night Owl. A minute ago we are seeing Jack Blake playing this over-the-top character, sending Bo and Din on an over-the-top adventure, and now they are putting knives on each other's throat. I personally just can't switch over. The tone is so different between the two parts, and the twist of Bo actually owning the dark saber is lame. Like, if that's the case, wouldn't Din give it back to her in episode 2? It just feels like they want to hold on to that and have a big twist here, which doesn't hit the note that they might want to be striving for. For me at least, it feels lazy and very finicky. But overall, the quality, the production value, the fight and all that are still great. Just the tone and the story is bad. We start on Coruscant, where Elias secretly meets with Moff Gideon, telling him that Mandalorians interrupted their plans on Navarro. Now we don't know what the plan is because we didn't get an answer in this season. I hope it is something that will be addressed in the future with Elia, as she will not appear again as well. But if this is just a lame way to connect Moff Gideon to the main storyline, then this is bad. So Gideon decided to once again take out the Mandalorian once and for all. He goes into a meeting with the Shadow Council with new Beskar stormtroopers guarding the door. Love to see the Empire's finest getting an upgrade. The meeting talks about a lot of stuff, even Thrawn is mentioned, which is probably a setup for the Ahsoka show. We also see Hux making an appearance, which is great. And the actor Brian Gleason is doing a phenomenal job as Hux. The voice is basically Dom Hall. I mean, they are brothers, so... But the sequel already destroyed Hux to a point that I don't think Hux is salvageable. So what? He is great and menacing in this show. We all know he's turning into the goofball and get killed like a bitch anyway. So the council approved Gideon's request for Imperial reinforcement, including 3 Praetorian guards. Then we go back to Navarro where both clans meet. Lots of tension between them and Bo is barely keeping them together. So they begin their plans to return to their home. Their fleet parks outside the planet while a scout party looks for the forge. On the way, they meet with some survivors, then they are met with the Beskar trooper and they engaged in a shootout. Axe is sent to get backup from the fleet. The Beskar trooper lure them into the Imperial base within Mandalore and isolate Din for whatever reason. Gideon shows up in the new Dark Trooper suit and orders the execution of the Mandalorians. Paz Vizsla sacrificed himself to the Praetorian Guard in order to buy time for them to escape. Which is whatever, I mean, you are wearing Beskar armor, the only thing stopping you from leaving is yourself. So...
You have done that yourself!
But having him slowly to get along with Din and Bo throughout the season helped a little bit for his sacrifice. It is really great seeing Moff Gideon again, as the show didn't really feel important or just lacked something, the opposing force. And now Gideon is back, everything feels more dreadful and relevant again. And Giancarlo is always amazing. He can make anything work. The episode is great from the beginning till the end, from the operation to scout the planet, to meeting survivors, to finding the forge, to battle with Beskar troopers, to them being lured into a trap, and all is lost. It really hit the right ending for a penultimate episode. The final episode. This episode is the climax, the payoff for the entire season. All of those side quests and setups are for this. We get the war between the Imperial remnants, Din versus Gideon, Bo-Katan versus Gideon, both of them versus Gideon, Grogu versus Praetorian Guards. Poor Praetorian Guards, they just started to become a real menace again and then a baby just played them. We also have Din versus the Praetorian Guards, Grogu toying with Gideon. Again, all of them are great, but compared to the previous season, there are just a lot more cuts that just take away all the magic and the impact of the fight. This happens throughout the entire season. A lot more cuts has been implemented in the editing. And we also get the dark saber being destroyed, which reminds me of... I know it symbolizes Bo-Katan doesn't need the dark saber to rule Mandalorian, but really? Just break it like that? After such rich backstory and history ever since we first saw it in Clone Wars, and the fact that the show doesn't really address this big thing is kinda bugging me. Nobody is curious where the Darksaber has gone, considering the fact that all the Night Owls joined Bo-Katan because of the Darksaber, and I personally don't think Moff Gideon is that. There is so much more that he can give as a character, and the story cannot stop here if they really want to connect it to the sequel trilogy. Then we get the ending, some wholesome moments for Din to kinda end the show at a very wholesome note, but again, the show is mostly about Bo-Katan, so why ending with Din? Because the show is called The Mandalorian and people wants to see Din and Grogu. All in all, the show is great on the production side. You can still see all the money that they have spent into the show, and a lot of money is spent. Some people are bashing this season, especially at the start of its release. I can understand why, because the first two episodes are not that good. So this season is about the Mandalorian come together and reclaim their home world. Great idea, but your little Jimmy may say, "Awesome, I want to see Mando wielding the dark saber and unite everyone. Be the leader of Mandalore." Well, you see, little Jimmy, Bo-Katan is the leader of Mandalore. She is the one wielding the dark saber and unites them. What? How? Well, she technically earned the dark saber from someone who took it from Mando, so she has it now. But I want to see Mando and Baby Yoda going on adventures together. They will, little Jimmy. It is just most of the time they will be standing behind Bo-Katan and help her to unite the people. Why? I want Mando. I want Baby Yoda. Who the hell is Bo-Katan? Yeah. Okay, jokes aside, I know not everyone has seen Clone Wars and Rebels. There might be a chance that you, who are watching this video, falls into that category, which is fine. And the show is called The Mandalorian, so I can understand why you might not want to see your lead character playing a supporting role to someone you don't really know about. But again, it can also be called The Mandalorian, which is what I like about the title. The Mandalorian and The Mandalorian. We've seen that in Book of Boba Fett, where Din Djarin just straight up stole 2 episodes from the show. Even if those 2 episodes focus on Boba Fett, I still believe the show will be at the place and the same level as it is now because the writing and the direction for the show is really lacking. On the other hand, The Mandalorian Season 3 is worse than the previous 2 seasons in terms of story. It is not as bad as the Book of Boba Fett in terms of the bigger picture. And Bo-Katan, disregarding her stories in the Clone Wars and Rebels, still has a relatively complete story that makes her the right choice to lead the people. The problem is how the show gets there. We see her giving up on herself after being abandoned by her own clan, being a miserable person living in solitude life on the island wanting to die, Luke, accidentally rejoining the Watch, slowly accepting her life as a member of the Watch. After showing her loyalty to the Watch, the Armorer shows her approval by letting her be a Mandalorian in her own way so she can be the one who walks both ways and so unite both clans. This story progression is great. What's not great is the episodes where these things are not playing a prominent role, mainly the first, second and sixth episode. And the time jump from the Book of Boba Fett to this season feels unnecessary. All that happens in between is Moff Gideon escape, amnesty program and Bo-Katan get abandoned. They can easily integrate this into the story instead of dedicating so much time and episodes into these characters talking about these things. And if they really want to go from The Mandalorian to The Mandalorian, I think they can go full on with Bo-Katan as the lead instead of not trusting their stories and force themselves to put Din at the center of all of this while having Bo-Katan kind of steps onto the center stage but still letting Din having one foot on the stage as well. But this is a business decision, so I don't really want to talk about that. I'm just saying that they can do other stuff to make this better. Maybe increase the number of episodes or just make a Bo-Katan show. But again, it is all down to business decision, so we'll get what we get. So if you view this as a Star Wars show, it is alright. Not as good as the first 2 seasons, but definitely way better than the Book of Boba Fett. Just the execution and the conveniences in the writing can be done a little bit better. But still, a lot of care is being put into the show and you can tell that they're really trying to use the Mando show as the centerpiece to expand it into a multi-show universe. So, give it a try. I think it is still worth it despite the drop-off. It got me so hyped for the Ahsoka show and Thrawn finally getting appeared again after Rebels. Bad Batch, now Mando Season 3 are all finished. I hope we will get more Star Wars content soon. But not too soon, take as much time as you need to make it good. It is really hard to bounce back from something like the sequel. Ugh. Just saying that makes me feel ugh. So, as cheesy as this sounds, may the Force be with you. Or in this case, may the Darksaber forever be yours.
Move along.